Hello, hello, and welcome back again to another episode of Bad Takes. This is episode 10, right, Andy?
I think so. I have my counting right.
I didn't count right in the titles, but this is episode 10. I'm Joe Payne, at Political Payne. This is J. Andrew World. Andy, we're talking about a fun film, but before we do that, would you like to introduce our guest, please?
Yeah. First up, we have one of my oldest friends. One of our first experiences as friends, bonding, was the discovery of Weird Al Yankovic. So Nathan Hall, I met at a Christian summer camp, and we found somebody there that we could ask into our hearts, and Weird Al has lived there ever since.
Hey, Nathan, welcome.
Welcome. Howdy. Thanks for having me.
We also have Anders Lee, our returning champion, has come back. He is truly the Bob to Weird Al's. I guess I've already messed this up.
Who's he the Bob to?
Are you talking about?
Still waiting.
He's the Bob to Lee Camp's Weird Al. So there we go.
Oh, there we
Yes.
go.
Yeah.
With his experience,
we taken off the air.
yeah, up until you had the sad ending. The community didn't rally around you.
It's like Wayne's World.
Yeah, Anders Lee here. Happy to be Anders Lee here.
Thank you, Anders. And we're talking about UHF, the 1989 screwball parody comedy by Weird Al Yankovic. I guess I'm dating myself a little bit. This movie came out the year I was born, so I guess I haven't existed in a time where Weird Al wasn't ubiquitous. You know what I mean? What is your guys' first experience with this film?
For me, I guess I'm dating myself even further. That I saw this in the theater and was one of a few people in the theater watching it. And this movie and Wayne's World made me want to write comedy. I love this movie to death.
Wow.
Funny thing is, Nathan's going to know exactly where I'm talking about. But I saw it at the Dollar Theater in Cleburne, Texas.
Yes, very. Yeah, definitely. That's the way that the auteur would want you to do it, as he intended.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I don't even think they showed it at the other theater in town.
I think you're right. Yeah,
but you weren't living there at the time.
No, but I've long story short, I know some of the people that ran the film projector or whatever. So I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's how you know you're cool, man. You know the projector people.
Well, yeah, in very small town Texas. Yes, I guess.
That's
Yeah, which is why we now have two people from the from my high school time in Texas on the show.
Nepotism.
Yes.
It's okay.
We're gonna work our way through everybody I'm still in touch with.
What about you, Anders? Do you have a first memory of this film?
Yeah, I rented it from Blockbuster when I want to say it was 10.
Classic.
I'm pretty sure it was on VHS. Yeah, it would have been on VHS. And I just was in the mood for comedy. I usually watched action at that point in my life, but I'd go for the Adam Sandlers. I'd go for the. I guess it was just Adam Sandler with comedy, but then, Weird Al.
Don't erase Chris Farley. Don't erase Chris Farley. How dare you?
What about Jim Carrey?
I don't think I was allowed to watch Chris Farley. Jim Carrey. I got around to it at some point, but I rented it as a 10-year-old. I remember watching it in my parents' bedroom. And
very cool. I just have vague memories of it from my childhood. Remembering Michael Richards in The Mop, remembering, just some of the gags, you know what I mean? It was weird. Watching it again, I was like, whoa, okay. This is jogging my memory. I remember me and my friends, goofing around and, face meat frying pan or, all this other bits. But let's check out the trailer really quick. So we just give everybody the vibe. And guess what? Anybody watching this and people watching it in the future, as of right now, when we're putting this out, this movie's for free on YouTube with ads. You can just watch it on YouTube if you don't mind clicking through some ads. So that was kind of nice. That was a welcome
And if you don't want ads, you can get it for free on Canopy with your library card.
Well, of course.
Participating libraries. True.
Yeah, visit your library. But let's check out the trailer to the 1989 classic, UHF, starring Weird Al Yankovic.
Listen, let's get one thing straight. Guns don't kill people. I do.
Channel 62 has the lowest ratings in the history of television. What they need is a new station manager.
No, not him. Forget it. No way.
A man of action. A man of courage. A man of vision.
What's your name?
Billy.
Billy what?
What they get is a man so desperate, he'll put anyone on the air.
Hey, Stanley.
Yeah, George?
How'd you like your own TV show?
Okay. You get the drink from the fire hose! Okay, you ready? Yeah! Open wide!
He's Conan, the librarian.
Today we're teaching poodles how to fly.
We beat out the networks.
George Newman. He starts where the others stop.
We're the #1 station in town.
Orion Pictures presents Weird Al Yankovic in UHF, the movie.
So there it is, man. What fun. What fun. Captures it. Does it? That's a good trailer.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's always a good sign when someone has to say the movie, just in case you didn't know what it was that you were watching there.
It was based on a play, actually.
Right, yeah, based on the best-selling book by Push Sapphire.
The off-Broadway one-man show.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Very
the radio
funny.
drama.
Radio drama.
So where do we want to start? What I appreciate about the movie is, so I've been calling it like a screwball comedy in our kind of promotional information, but it's almost like this entire movie is a continuation of Weird Al's work. Like it's a parody movie. Even like the main, there's obviously, it opens with the Indiana Jones parody. It's going to almost close with the Rambo parody, an extended Rambo parody. But there's also just, even the movie itself kind of has the vibe of, it's like, this is a plot you've seen in the 80s before, right? Whether it's the ski lodge is going to get shut down or whatever. In this case, it's a little UHF station, but
yeah. Or I think they even kind of did it a little bit in Roadhouse.
There you go.
I guess nobody else has seen Roadhouse.
No,
I've seen Roadhouse. I'm not
I was just trying to make the connection with Roadhouse, but I was
what do you
like,
mean?
okay, I think I'm getting there with you. Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of, the town rallied around him to.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's often a thing with comedies, especially. There was a specific time period where at the end, everyone would be together, and then they would usually dance or something. That was like a prerequisite for comedies for a while, which I'm totally cool with. But yeah, like it definitely had that. I would say that it's an extension of what Weird Al already did. As Annie mentioned, we both grew up in fairly strict religious households, and I was only allowed a certain amount of secular media, and most of it was Weird Al and the Saved by the Bell, which explains a lot of my life and choices that I've made. To the point that at one point I went to a party and they were playing a song, and I was like, oh, they're doing like a UHF cover. Excuse me, they're doing a Weird Al cover. And then someone had explained to me that Weird Al was the one that was parodying that song, because that was my version of reality at that time.
I always hated it.
Okay, I get that. I was young and I was a little kid when there were a few songs where I definitely heard the Weird Al version before I ever heard the original. So yeah, guilty as charged for me as well.
Yeah, it was the thing about Stryper and Weird Al for Nathan for a while there.
Just shouting at the devil. Well, but I don't know, like Christian pop culture is this whole like other world into itself. There's a really great book about it called Body Piercing Saved My Life, of just like someone who wasn't a part of that, like trying to explain and understand Jesus junk. I won't derail the whole podcast, but yes, it is like a completely different reality. But anyway, so if you're not allowed the media, then you of course I obsessed about it. So then I would like get Mad Magazine or whatever to learn about the thing that I wasn't supposed to watch or whatever, which maybe just want to sneak it out more.
The weird thing is, I was actually like that same dollar theater where I saw UHF. I also saw Freddy's Dead because my parents did actually let me have other things that weren't Striper. But I had to have a healthy dose of my Christian rock too. So it was always the Christian radio station going around, to the Freddy Krueger movie.
It's a weird leap, but so Anders, you were talking about that you were mostly Adam Sandler up to that point?
For comedy, yeah. I'm trying to think what I did for comedy. I think it was a lot of Adam Sandler. I liked Inspector Clouseau. And cartoons and stuff, but I think for like comedy films, that was mostly it.
Yeah, I definitely remember like a time period in which I was talking about this last night about how he was such a dominant force that people would play his album the way that people played, like, I don't know, the new Smashing Pumpkins had come out or whatever at that time.
Weird Al, you're saying?
No, Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler. Oh, like his albums.
Yeah, I should say in my house, absolutely, it would be played like that. But within whatever at school, public school, when I went to that at some point, he was such a dominant force. And then did you kind of like move on for that, or are you like, no, I'm just always been a diehard Sandler fan, or where'd you go from there?
Yeah, I moved on. I was became insufferable film nerd as I became a teenager.
It happens.
Yeah, Yeah, honestly, growing up, I did not watch. I did watch UHF, and I watched the Naked Gun movies and Happy Madison stuff. But I really did not watch a ton of comedy growing up, even though I went into comedy. Strangely enough, I preferred douchebag art house shit. I worked at a video store as a teenager, so that's what I gravitated towards more.
So when you worked in the video store, would that have been like the 90s?
No, this was aughts, 2008.
Okay.
2007, 2008, yeah.
Oh,
the
wow.
video store's now out of business. It was like on its last legs. They just killed it.
Well,
arguably, yeah. They had a teenager working there and drinking beer, so I had to go under.
I don't know if it's a claim to fame, but I was there at the second to last video store getting shut down because the next last Blockbuster was in Alaska, which is where I'm at now. And it was just really interesting again, like you having been at record stores, video stores, all that good stuff. Just like the day you're watching physical media officially end. And it was just like this crazy thing of like, they're like, I don't know, everything's $1 or whatever. And then people were just like rushing, to get this stuff because then now there's just that one in Oregon. And I really miss, and I'm sure it's a cliche thing to say, but I really do miss that. Not just like working at those, but the whole like subculture of the people that did work there. Yeah. There was obviously a cliche for a while of like Quentin Tarantino types who were like working on their screenplay while they were there. But I've been turned on to many, not just like art house, but just different weird movies because of people that like yourself that worked at those things. And I miss that very much.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the streaming world needs like a judgmental, young person to scoff at people.
If you look at my, that was the one thing that was stopping me from watching all the movies that I've been watching now on that you can see on my Letterboxd. If you look on that, and just see like. What the hell? Why did you just watch the entire what was that? The Urban Legends trilogy in like 2 nights?
Right. You need to like temper it with, I got Urban Legends, but I also got a good dog movie or something. Pay extra to make up for it.
I do think Uncut Gems was in between like a couple of the Urban Legends movies, but
okay, it's
much easier to shit on movies that you don't like that everyone likes than it is to like. I never had that many of the the deep cuts in my pocket. I would just say Kurosawa and then shit on whatever you like. But let's talk about something I find a little interesting about this is the whole beginning of the movie is this really funny parody of Indiana Jones, but then it cuts to the reality of life for these characters, or for the main character, Weird Al's character, which oh god, what's his name again?
George.
George, yeah.
Oh, sorry, George.
George and his buddy Bob, and they're working in fast food, and it's burger world. And what does he say? Nobody appreciates a good imagination, right? So I don't know.
Which we almost saw in episode 2 with the other Cleburne High School alumni friend of mine, where they have almost the same scene and tape heads.
That's what I was just gonna say. This movie, or I thought this when we watched this movie. This was one of the first films we did on Bad Takes was Tapeheads, with John Cusack. Second one, yeah, and like it's definitely has the vibe of once they get to the TV station, it's almost like a sketch movie. You know what I mean? Where they have all these different commercials and different things like that. But what do you guys just think of? It's interesting. IMDb has a lot of the bits like in the photos, which is kind of fun. But what do you guys just think about the? Is there any commentary in this movie? Like, the characters hate their jobs. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the main character can't hold down a job because he's creative, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is like maybe like slight commentary, but like you're saying, it's mostly just like the vehicle is to get to sketches, and that's like a whole like rich Kentucky Fried Movie. There's a whole rich history of that. Another film that's very similar to this is Stay Tuned, which is a John Ritter film from roughly the same time period, and so everything is just an excuse to get to that. But what I would point out is that it's shot in Tulsa, where I lived for a couple of years. The Plots Are Us sketch is this funeral home is just down the street from Harvard, and it very much does show like what Tulsa was like in that time period.
Wow.
Very white. It should be pointed out that it is where I lived was pretty close to the Black Wall Street massacre, arguably the most bloody or deadly mass shooting in U.S. history, and which that's my superpower, is just always bringing the mood down. So I should point that out.
Hey, buddy.
But it's super white. Obviously, you can see that. But there's like a certain sort of like right on the edge of like white trash sensibility to it, and like you've lived in places like Cleburne, Texas, or Tulsa, Oklahoma. Stuff like King of the Hill is like a documentary. Some of it's like real realistic of what it's actually like to live there. That NRA guy, definitely have met him at some point.
He's even got the red hat on. Like, it's too fun.
Yep.
I thought it was there was some commentary there because this is at a time when a lot of sort of countercultural criticism, if you will, at the time was considered was extremely critical of television as a medium. If you look at what constituted the left at that point, television was like the boogeyman, basically. Like that's how the device to manufacture consent and all this stuff. And there's truth to that's absolutely true, but that's not inherent in the medium, right? That's the way it developed. But I think UHF is kind of ahead of its time in a way, saying that like it doesn't need to be that way, right? It's not the medium itself, that's the way it's been used and sort of historically progressed.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think there's also a sense of, one of the things I love about this is the same thing I love about Wayne's World, where there is this like relentless, for lack of a better word, optimism and energy to it. So it's one of Weird Al's strengths is like there isn't really like a dark, like there kind of is like a little bit, but for the most part, it's this movie, like I just watched it last night. Whatever, I gave Jeff Bezos another $3 because I didn't know it was free on YouTube or whatever. But
sorry,
it just instantly puts. I'm a very negative, cynical person, and this immediately puts me in a better mood. And it's just that his energy is just I don't know, very charismatic to me.
And it doesn't help. It helped too because the previous film he watched was Uncut Gems. So
yes, which is the polar opposite of this movie. I don't recommend that as a double feature ever if you can avoid it.
My goodness. I see what you're saying about like and that is the real dynamic in this film is like, it's a little ragtag. I mean, what does UHF even stand for? Like, what is
ultra
that?
high frequency.
Yeah.
So it's like your local radio station, but a small TV station. These used to be throughout the country. And this is kind of, being filmed and produced at a time when these things are all dying out, and that's like the part of this plot.
Before Bill fucking Clinton signed the Telecommunications Act and just destroyed them. Yeah.
Thanks, Bill. But then we also have this dynamic of the corporate network, embodied by Kevin McCarthy, the actor Kevin McCarthy, and
who's fantastic. In everything. He's in.
I fucking love his performance in this, but that dynamic of like the ragtag, non-corporate, local, independent. I can get behind that, independent media and all that, versus like the villainous business suit guy. I think that's not, it's not radical, but in the parlance of its times in '89, I think there's, they are, like you said, being anti-establishment, counterculture, and what a
almost
fucking fantastic, almost collectivist, but what a fantastic fucking Fran Drescher performance. Like, I have to say, like, she owned it in this movie.
Everybody.
Great.
I mean, Billy Barty, hilarious in this film.
Oh my god! Oh my
god! It's just everybody in this movie is just like on their A game. Really.
Did you notice Fran Drescher seemed like her accent was not as thick? Like she kind of picked it up.
No, because she wasn't. Was she Fran Drescher yet? Was she the nanny?
I think it was before the nanny.
Definitely before the nanny. But I mean, go back to Saturday Night Fever. I mean, like she's always had that accent. She just plays it up for the nanny. That's it's a character,
right.
It's a bit.
She doesn't actually talk like that.
I was actually watching a clip from the nanny where the whole bit was they're in a sushi restaurant that she's never like eaten sushi. She's pretending she has, and then she eats a whole thing of wasabi. And then her accent goes away, like she's talking normal all of a sudden. Like that was the
that's
bit,
a good gag.
It was pretty funny. It was pretty funny. I was like, all right. But
was she in pain?
Yeah, or she falls on the ground. It was very like slapstick. But so this is an interesting thing. Like, there's a lot of slapstick in this movie. I love slapstick. And there's surrealism. You know what I mean? Like when the ant pitches Weird Al's cheek and it like stretches out. Inches away. But then I found really interesting, you mentioned Billy what's his name, Billy Barty, is that his name?
Billy Barty, yes.
Yeah, Billy Barty. There's that scene where they have that first conflict with the network guys and they play it really real, where they push him to the ground and poor Billy Barty falls down. But then there's this shot that like haunts me now where he stands up and he's just like holding up his arm and he's got this like real road rash on his arm, and he's just sad, and you're just like, oh shit, man, like you feel it, and that's right before Richie Aprile from Sopranos says, there's no broads in broadcasting or So I feel like this movie, it's very slapstick, but then they knew where to play it real here and there, and the tone would shift here and there, but it was always like it worked, I felt.
And I just have to say, Trinidad Silva is like the breakout star in this. Died during filming of the film.
R.I.P. Raul, who was supposed to have a bigger part. He was supposed to be the postman. He had a different. Nick got killed by a drunk driver. Again, this is what it's like in Tulsa. There's that reality too. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. And he has the famous "We don't need no stinking badgers" line.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody know the reference? Can anybody name the film?
From a Fistful of Dollars, is it?
Fistful of Dollars.
That sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, wrong.
No?
Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Oh, right.
Okay. Bogart and Reiner, so good. Incredibly racist depiction, but still an amazing film.
On the race note, it should be mentioned, in addition to, I think we can safely say there's like two of the four main stars. Well, it's maybe had some colorful stuff happen to them since then, been canceled a bit or whatever. But the only part that I think that would not age well if I were to show it to like my stepson or whatever is the Gandhi 2. That's like got brown face in it, and like it's still super funny. But and I get why, because they had Jay Levy, the guy who wrote it, who's like basically Weird Al's main writer. He did it. That's the only part he plays in the movie. And I guarantee you it was like they could not find an Indian American in Tulsa, so he just probably agreed to do it, like out of desperation.
Well, it's also kind of like a, I don't know, maybe I misread it as like a Tropic Thunder kind of bit where it's mocking the insensitivity of Hollywood.
Yeah, and I mean, the line, "Give me a steak, medium rare," is just, because he doesn't eat. They don't eat cows.
I mean, you should all. I don't know if you were about to mention it, Nathan, but like the karate dojo people, or the karate dojo leader. This movie's of its time. Like people of color and immigrant people are not like. They're not bad characters. They're not bad guys. I mean, maybe the Italian mobsters a little bit, but like, it's just they're not great.
You can't be racist making fun of Italian people.
Well, I would argue that, because I was just about to bring that up, like the Asian character Cooney, who's like arguably one of my favorite characters in the whole movie.
Yeah.
He actually like. For the time period, actually kind of like owned and was like parroting the way that there was old racist kung fu movies. Like one of the most brilliant jokes is that they're in the supply closet and he's like, "Supplies!" So he's referencing this is the way that people think that we talk, but also I'm going to kick your ass, and do it. I love Cooney, so I would argue that within that time period, he actually was, like whatever, giving it back, so to speak,
Yeah, I mean, it is satirical. It definitely is satirical.
And I mean, Gende Watanabe's career basically is kind of like running right up against those kind of racial stereotypes, and sometimes for the bad. Because I think 16 Candles, was it?
16 Candles is probably maybe the low point. I had never watched it when it originally came out. Watched it like I think in college or later. And was just like, I just felt really sad for him. Like that's such a weird scene.
It is messed up. You mentioned really quick. You mentioned racist freakouts. We all know what Michael Richards did. But what was the other one? You mentioned somebody else, Nathan. Who were you?
Well, the Victoria Jackson unfortunately went the way of Tea Party. She ran for political
she's
office.
in this.
Yeah, she's
she's Carrie.
She's a girlfriend.
Yeah, she's second lead.
Let me find. There's a few pictures of her. So, oh my gosh, she's a MAGA. She's MAGA now.
Yeah, MAGA. And so I would say she's not canceled in the same way that like Michael Richards is, but I was like super disappointed in her because I really love the stuff she did on Saturday Night Live, and she's done some other cult movies, but again, this film I'm obsessed with. I think she does an absolutely amazing job.
Very good.
And so unfortunately she's gone down, in my opinion, a bad path or whatever. But Michael Kramer, now I'm very curious, Anders, what your take on this is, but obviously Michael Richards was canceled in one of the earlier cancellations of the history of that practice. What would you think if they were to ever do, because this was proposed by like a couple of comics like a long time ago, of just like literally having like the trial of Michael Richards, like, because instead of just like there was this one video that circulated and then he's just never been seen ever again, versus just like for him to have to confront what he did, but then like maybe have the opportunity to essentially go on a stage again, you know what I'm saying? Or should he just like disappear forever after that?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know who gets to decide that. I know he did some sort of like, something akin to Will Smith's recent like Taj Mahal visit. But I remember him going on some tour somewhere, like some inner peace journey. But
rehab for racists. Yeah.
Right. I don't know if he. I don't think he's performing anymore, is he?
No. And what I remember of that incident, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but what I distinctly remember was if you watch the whole video, there is this person who's just mercilessly like mocking and heckling him, and he really does work for like I'd say like a good like it derailed his whole set, and so he just kept working and doing like all the stuff that you normally do to like shut somebody down, and then obviously went completely insane, and then just said every horrible negative word you could say about African Americans in like the span of a minute or whatever.
Yep.
And then that was it. But it's not to excuse it.
Do you remember what the guy said to him? Because for me, like the video only ever began after Kramer was freaking out, right?
Yeah.
After he's freaking out, and he's talking about 50 years ago when you have you upside down with a fork up your ass, all this like crazy shit. You're like, whoa, dude. But then the heckler, calls out, and what does he say? He goes, "You're just not funny, man. You're not funny. That's why you ain't had no movies. Seinfeld, that's it, right?" And it's just like, it's fucking cutting, and it's harsh, and it's true, because like this is Michael Richards' movie right here. We're looking at it. You know what I mean? And he's like the dumb janitor, who's like a superhero with his mop or whatever.
Yeah, because obviously if I was in the audience, I'd be like, "Shut your mouth, UHF for starters," or whatever,
I remember it resurfaced at the time. There was I don't know if it was a sketch or just like an indie movie he was in the 80s where he did blackface.
Oh wow. Okay, so maybe there was something else to it. It wasn't so much as like a momentarily like huge lapse in judgment or something.
I mean, it's hard to say. Who's to say? I mean, I don't think
I know.
Did you see his?
I was just gonna say I like Chappelle's take on the whole thing. Was basically like, man, Kramer shouldn't be saying that, but also Kramer's having a bad night. I feel sorry for him.
Yeah. He's like, I found I was like, what part of me was comedian, what part of me was black. But I think the other thing, like with Michael Richards, did you guys see him on Leno, or not Leno, but Letterman trying to apologize?
Yeah, with
Seinfeld was there, and it's like the most fucked up thing. He's being like piped in via satellite, and like he's like, "I'm really sorry. What I did was terrible." He's like shaking, and like people are starting to like giggle in the audience. And Jerry Seinfeld's like, "Please don't laugh. It's not funny." And you're just like,
"Not funny.
This whole fucking thing sucks. Yeah, it's not funny, right? It's just this. This is not a cool.
This
situation.
is not his only movie, though. And he was
Michael
also in Problem Child.
I'm so sorry. How dare
Problem
Child or Problem Child 2?
No, Problem Child.
We all know the superior one. But and so he even said like, he's like, I'm not racist, I'm not a hateful person. He's like, but I feel like this shit is in our society, and it's a part of everything, and it just bubbled up out of me in this moment of rage, and this and this and that. So he apologized in as many ways as he could, but it's just one of those things. Like he snapped and
right.
I don't know. It's not cool. I don't know. You can't. I'm not going to say whether the guy should or shouldn't work anymore, but I think that the issue why. Go ahead.
Well, he was on Curb Your Enthusiasm for like the fake Seinfeld reunion they did on the on that show.
And so he did work again. That's good to know. I didn't know that.
He actually did something really recently.
Larry David gets away with anything.
Yeah,
he was on Faith, Hope, and Love, which I've never even heard of.
I don't even know what that is.
That sounds like a placard that you would buy at a Christian bookstore. What is that?
It is a romantic comedy starring some people I've never heard of before, and Michael Richards, Corbin Burnson. Maybe it is a Christian comedy.
Sounds like Pure Flix.
That's like when that's like when Louis C.K. started shitting on snowflakes and everything after his cancel.
But they got Ed Asner. Ed Asner was good.
Asner's awesome.
Love it, Asner. But Kramer, man. This is the thing. I think that this movie shows, like, I mean, the guy was whatever, a brilliant comedian and a physical comedian. But so like the point his heckler was making in that moment was, and why he was having the situation he was having of bombing on stages. He's not a writer. He's not a funny writer on his own. He's a physical comedian. He's used to performing characters that are given to him and developing characters like Stanley Spadowski.
So, Anders, I'm really curious. Like, I have not done stand up in a while, but did do it pretty heavily for a while there. I saw some of your stand up, and I read one of your essays,
really?
which was really good.
Wow.
But like, do you have like
Wow, you did a lot of homework just for this.
I try to be respectful, you know. But do you have like a quick story of like the worst heckler you ever had? I'm always interested in those stories because they reveal a lot, I feel, about the comic.
Yeah. I guess the worst one was in 2019, actually, when I was in Edinburgh and I was doing an hour, and there were a couple British guys who just kept interrupting and they wouldn't stop. And I even did the thing where I let one of them come on stage and try and tell a joke, and it bombed, and that still didn't deter them. Usually that deters people because they see, oh, this actually isn't easy. And they just kept going. You know, they didn't get what I was doing, and there were other people there who wanted to watch. So eventually, I had to get in one of their faces and tell him to leave. And eventually the security came for the bar, but they.
We do have a still image of this incident. Here it is.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, I did let my.
Yeah, go ahead.
I did let my temper get the better of me, and as they were leaving, I yelled, "Fuck the Queen," and I think that lost the rest of the audience for me too. This was in Britain.
God, they love the stupid Queen, man.
Okay. Yeah. No, I was just curious. Yeah. I'll relate mine real quick in case anyone was curious. What I'm always frustrated with is that the whole dream is that like you have like that put down that just like shuts them down, right? You know?
Yeah.
And so there was this one where this guy was just like so drunk he was unintelligible, and I knew him because he was in like a band that played, you know, at that bar during the week, and I said something along the lines of like, "I'm sorry that you're 30 and you're still working in a cover band," or something like that. And so it was like, "Ooh," and that's supposed to be like the don't. And then that guy leaves, but then he just kept going. But it's so hard when a heckler is incoherent when they're just speaking Budweiser, you know. And and it was during this set that was for me at the time was important or whatever. It had some vague media coverage, whatever. And I just completely lost it. Like I was just like, I'm gonna take this candle and kick it in your face. Like, and like I'm very glad the security came because I always wondered like, would I have? Because probably not. But like in the moment, I was like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. That's what will work to so I can get back to my tight 5 or whatever. So
damn.
I'm not a violent person. Just want to point that out.
Ready to throw hands with a heckler? Yeah. Well. You know, they bring out the worst in people. Just ask Michael Richards, I guess.
Well, I'm also curious if the because there's always the heckler thing. I don't know if you've experienced this, Anders, where then that person in Edinburgh or whatever then comes up to you and wants to buy you a drink, and then thinks that they've been a really great part of your show and that they helped you. I hate that more than anything.
It's funny because I have had that happen, but this time actually, they left for that day. And then in Edinburgh, you have to flyer for. We don't have to, but most acts do flyer for your show outside the venue. And I was passing out flyers, and I, was like, "Hey, it's a comedy show." And this guy turned to me. I just saw kind of a buff guy from behind, and he turned, and it was the guy from the day before who was kicked out. And he like smiled and said, "No, thank you," and then kept walking.
Wow. Guys, does anybody know? Did Weird Al ever do stand-up? Has he always just been on that game?
Sorry, go ahead, Anders.
I wouldn't be surprised if he did like open mics as a musical comedian.
That's what he did do, and he also opened for like punk bands.
Oh, cool.
Which the scene where he gets spit in the face. He actually took that because he opened for like I want to say. X, if I remember correctly.
X. Okay, yeah.
And this like 13-year-old punk comes up after the show and goes, "Hey, are you the guy that opened for X?" And he's like, "Yeah," and they're like really excited because he thinks he's a fan, and the kid just spits on him.
Oh my god!
Wow. So that was his own life.
Yes.
See, I didn't know that, and I feel like I know like a ton. That's great. Yeah, like there's the whole like story of where he recorded Another One Rides the Bus, like basically in the bathroom of his dorm. And then that's he got
Well,
into
no, it's
Dr.
across from the radio station because he had the recording equipment at the radio station, and they just brought the cords out to the bathroom.
That was at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, where I'm actually attending right now to get my history degree. And yeah, that's in the journalism
You brought
department.
pictures of the bathroom, right?
I've been to that bathroom, bro. I don't want to tell you what I've done in that bathroom. It's not as magical as Another One Rides the Bus, but yeah, I've been there. It's pretty cool. And KCPR is the Cal Poly radio station. So yeah, that's a bit of our local lore, is that he recorded like the first cut of that or whatever in the bathroom right there.
Yeah, the one that got played on Dr. Demento.
That's right. So,
that's right. Andy, backing up here, isn't Weird Al also like weirdly like educated? Like he has like a PhD in architecture or something like that. He has like a way more education than you would think for.
Well, dude, sorry to interrupt, but that's what Cal Poly is an engineering school. That's what it's known for. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, he has some kind of engineering architecture degree. I can't remember exactly what it is off the top of my head.
And as you know, because you attend there, that's a pretty prestigious school. So it's interesting that he like kind of turned down what probably could have been a pretty good job engineering, because whatever, this was his passion instead, and the world's better for it.
He just he found success right away, which is really odd that somebody like so niche of a thing, found that success. Because I mean, my Sharona was really, my Bologna blew up, not to the heights that he did on a second album, because the second album was just massive. With in 3D with Eat It was just that made him a star.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, would you guys think that now, like, as of 2022, like that he is cool again? Because I feel like he went through a time period where he was kind of like not the coolest comic, and then there was a resurgence. That's my opinion, but like, what do you guys think?
Right. He has a story about how, well, I've heard him say this, that everybody wanted to hang out with him, or a lot of people did, like Alanis Morissette, he says, and then she just like stopped calling him. He said that in an interview, which is a little sad to admit that, but I think there's a strong possibility that he'll make a comeback because of the biopic that's coming out with Radcliffe. But it could also go the other way. Like maybe the Zoomers will feel like he's being shoved down their throats and reject him. But I could see him making way, because it's like, it's not this. I mean, I was too young to really receive Weird Al when he first got on the map, but it wasn't like, it was a kind of cutting edge stuff at the time, and now it's like, this is like corny, not necessarily in a bad way, but like the modern young person would see it as corny.
Yeah, I mean, Nathan and I literally like found him right when he had his second hit, second massive hit, which was Fat.
Yep.
Right.
Because I mean, like a surgeon was, it did about as well as My Bologna, and he didn't, he didn't blow up like he did with Eat It until Fat.
What is Fat a parody of again?
Bad. It was Michael Jackson.
Okay, also
Michael Jackson was that popular at that time. I personally, I kind of forgot about Weird Al for years. He had the album come out, Poodle Hat, and I just didn't even track for me. Didn't care. But the one, the last big one, I think, that came out, the one that had aluminum foil on it, which is like the Lord song Royals. Mm-hmm. It also has Tacky on it. When I saw the video for aluminum foil, it just hit me, man. And because that song, you couldn't escape that goddamn song. Yeah. And I just had to, after that video,
debuted at number 1 too. His only album ever to do that.
Wow.
Okay. I think you're correct. Yeah. So what I was getting at was that, so as someone who's this big, well, I'm a nerd of a lot of things, but especially comedy movies, is that there was a time period where he wasn't cool. I distinctly remember Mr. Show, which was the show that I'm obsessed with. There's a part where they do this clearly supposed to be Weird Al thing, and it's essentially like implying like this is this lame guy that just does songs about food and he's no funny anymore, basically. And then oddly enough, in my opinion, he started to become cool again by the same group, because Scott Aukerman, who wrote for Mr. Show, then later went on to do Comedy Bang Bang, like had him on the show and then from there, then he has become this sort of whatever resurgence. Like there's obviously like stuff for kids, like I think he does like the Captain Underpants song or whatever, but also this other thing of like, I guess kind of elder statesman or whatever like that, where he's like cool again, as opposed to there's a time period where I think, like you said, almost all of us kind of like almost forgot that he was there, because he did kind of drop off the map. The maybe the lowest point, but also maybe one of the best points, was when they did that behind the music on him. And it's like one of the best behind the musics ever, because they couldn't find anything depressing or bad about him. And so just like a couple people are like, I don't know, maybe he's gay. Like that was it. Like that was the only thing that they could find that was even remotely interesting. There was sad stuff happening in his life after that, but there's just like, it is literally the most boring behind the music. Like it's just like,
did you ever see the They Might Be Giants one?
No, is that one good too?
They actually said, we haven't had this much trouble making an episode of Behind the Music since Weird Al.
Exactly, right. Because, yeah, there was just like, he had this charmed life of like, well, after college, then I became a real big success, and I was in the Naked Gun movie and blah, 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 you know.
Well, I wonder what this movie is going to be then, because like every musician biopic is about a drug problem. That's basically 100% of them. So if you didn't have that, I don't know what the hell they're going to make.
Did you see the Funny or Die trailer? Weird Al had nothing to do with it, but they had a Funny or Die trailer with Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad.
Right, but it was like, but that was a joke. Whereas if I still feel, and like up until I guess when the day comes out, I still feel like this is a prank like that, where like I don't believe that they're making this movie. It just doesn't seem real. It's gonna be great when it is, but it just. I understand that someone wrote that down on the internet and I read it, but it just doesn't. It just seems like a prank. It's just, why would Daniel Radcliffe do this? You know,
does anybody?
Maybe they're totally.
Why would Daniel Radcliffe play a corpse?
He's doing weird shit. Yeah, he's doing a movie where he has guns for hands. I mean, he's kind of like into that. But
I saw him. I saw.
Oh no, that was a play. I'm sorry, that was a
play. I saw him naked in another play.
Well, Eccles, right?
Yeah, but he was also in the Cripple of Ishmael, one of the few Broadway plays I've actually gone to. It was very good, and I think he was naked in that also.
What does anybody know what the plot of this Daniel Radcliffe movie is going to center around? Because all the promotional material I see is that he looks like this is the quintessential Weird Al era, frizzy hair, the little mustache, and the Hawaiian shirts, and that's basically Radcliffe looks exactly like that.
Yeah, I mean, like you were, I forget which of you said it, but like there's like there's a formula to biopic, as we know, and I'm fascinated with like what you could possibly do, because from what I understand,
Dewey Cox already did it.
Right. Like
I need an orchestra of didgeridoos. Yeah.
The only thing I could think of is that there is a really sad like moment in his life later where in this bizarre accident, both his parents died from carbon monoxide poisoning.
Sad.
And then like,
oh shit! Wait, when did you say that was?
This was I don't know the exact year, but it was kind of in that fallow, you know, like,
but like after he had
it was like 2000.
Oh,
2001.
Yeah. And that was right. And then after that, basically, then he got contacts and then he got married. Like, you know, that's like the only time period where he kind of like disappeared for a while. You know, like I'm big of a nerd. I literally was a member of his fan club, you know, so
wow,
like, I know
cool, right on, dude.
Ridiculous stuff about this guy. But like other than that, like
you had that VHS. Remember that VHS tape that you had?
Complete Al, absolutely.
Yes.
Memorized it. Yeah.
Complete Al. Was it like sing-alongs with Weird Al videos?
Well, oddly enough, it partially does a fake biopic of him. So again, that's why I think that this is a prank, you know.
And like Mark Mothersbaug's in it, and he's just like, I can't believe he did it. He made the perfect Devo song. I hate him for it.
Yeah, now I'm starting to think it is a prank, but if it's not, I do wonder, are they going to make the central conflict of the movie, are they going to make an issue out of like his struggles with copyright law. Was
Right,
that ever an issue in his
exactly.
career? Are they going to make hay out of that?
Yeah,
or
like
his beef with Coolio.
Coolio, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
was that the okay? That's the
Yeah.
one
Oh
Weird
my
Al
God.
song I really remember. Actually, is Amish Paradise.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
but apparently
Yeah.
Coolio gave him permission, so he recorded it, and then Coolio like took it back at
Well,
public, yeah, or something.
Right. Well, if to bring it back to this, like, so if UHF comes up in this biopic, like, essentially it would be like him on the phone with the dude from Dire Straits, being like, "Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to play guitar, that's cool. I mean, because like that, like you know what I'm saying, like that's about the most pathos that came out of this movie, unless you count like when Raul, is one of the minor characters, obviously died in real life. Because yeah, like you said, copyright, that's the thing he struggled with for a while. I'm not sure how memorable that is when you stack that up against like the life of somebody like a Freddie Mercury or whatever, in terms of like drama, or Elton John or Miles Davis.
Dewey Cox.
Coolio's
Or
mad
Dewey
at me.
Cox.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Coolio got
who's
mad.
that comedian who's now on Saturday Night Live? I know Andrews, you interviewed him.
Oh, James Austin Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah.
He did a.
Did you see his Trump
Right.
talking about Weird Al? Weird Al,
Yeah,
folks.
that was.
He's got
that
so
was
much
his
money.
big-
He's got more money than me, possibly.
We love Weird Al. He's great. No one talks about the originals. The day Santa went
Look
crazy.
at that Coolio.
Did they have but you're saying things were copacetic between him and Coolio, or was there some friction there?
Yeah, wasn't that ever? I thought that was resolved, wasn't it, Andy?
I think it
think
was
they-
resolved.
Years later,
Okay.
but at the time, Coolio was like, "This shit isn't a joke, bro." Like,
Okay.
talking about
Well,
some
that's
real
a movie.
shit. Yeah,
I'd watch that movie.
Yeah, just Coolio just like on the couch, like kind of fuming or whatever, and like calling his lawyer or something. Yeah, I'm not sure how filmable or entertaining that would be for the masses.
Coolio sitting in an office with mahogany desk and everything with his lawyer, all
his
upset.
lawyer filing briefs or something.
Yeah.
It's like Coolio wearing a suit with his hair like going all over the place, like it was back then.
Oh my God.
I mean, they did make I actually enjoyed the Pam and Tommy miniseries that they did. So maybe it'll be sort of a la that, like trying to go for the same, like mid-90s celebrity legal dispute. There's a market for that. The OJ,
Yeah, but I don't think a talking penis will work in a Weird Al biopic.
do you guys watch that American Crime Story? You ever watch any of that?
Yeah.
I watched some of it.
Did you see the impeachment one, the Clinton one?
It was great.
I saw a little bit of it. Yeah.
It was pretty nuts. I was quite impressed, actually.
This is my first time hearing that this exists. So,
oh, dude,
more.
It's
Tell
a
me
really
more.
interesting depiction of the Clinton scandal, the Lewinsky scandal, and it really like hits home the point that like conservatives own that damn town, and they just feel like so fucking aggrieved every time it doesn't go their way. Even when it's a corporate shill like Bill Clinton, they still got to find something. But
Clive Owen does a masterful job playing Bill Clinton.
Unreal.
I never thought I would say.
Oh yeah. That's
Clive Owen.
That's nuts, right?
Yeah,
totally surprising.
Wow, Clive
it's crazy.
Owen.
Yeah,
like fucking almost James Bond.
Almost James Bond, yeah.
And
he's been portrayed. No one's ever quite gotten it. Dennis Quaid just seemed a little silly. It was like an authentic performance.
Yes.
And then the only other, I mean, I'm sure there's other ones, but the only other one I have seen is John Lithgow, actually on Broadway. I'm listing the only two.
He played Clinton?
He played Bill Clinton in this play.
Wow.
But I feel like they made this decision early on, made no attempt whatsoever to do his accent. He just was John Lithgow, but as Bill Clinton.
I respect that.
That's even crazier. Like John
Yeah.
Lithgow, who I guess because I know him from so many, like he's the bad guy in so many things, like Dexter or whatever.
Dr.
Like,
Lizardo.
Right. Of just the menace of him as Bill Clinton. And then he doesn't even do the accent, because that's what always sort of softened him, was his Southern Arkansas drawl. Like that sounds terrifying.
Which John Travolta did.
Yeah,
Oh,
John
I can't
Travolta.
believe-
Right.
Yeah, we did Primary Colors. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
Listen, I may have raped that child, but no, I didn't. Right, like that's like the whole movie. But
and then Kathy Bates.
Yeah, Kathy Bates goes full Vince Foster in that movie, which is weird. But another thing, like, let's get back to UHF. Like, another thing that I find interesting about this movie is the only like corollary we really have these days to the UHF station is public access channel, and the weird programming you get on the public access channel. And I remember when I watched this, I actually paused it at this moment to see like what all the shows are on F. So of course, there is 7 to 8 prime time is Stanley Spavsky's Clubhouse, of course, and they got reruns of Mr. Ed, Beverly Hillbillies Traffic Court. But then they start having shows: My Three Mutants, Dog Racing from Rio de Janeiro, The Lice is Right. Oh my God. Bestiality Today. Okay, I didn't notice that one. And that's preceded by The Flying Pope. So
yep, you also notice Volcano Worshippers Hour, which is a reference to he couldn't get himself into the high school yearbook, so he made up his own club called the Volcano Worshippers Club.
Wow, that's funny.
Yeah, there's a bunch of like weird stuff like that in there.
So you have all me and the Beatles, so you could probably tell me like the minutia about. You already have several times Weird Al's life and all this. I read somewhere online that sometimes the artists, the terms for them allowing him to do a song is they get to play on it.
Yeah, which is what I just alluded to, because
or show up in the video like Charbillionaire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Money for Nothing parody that's in the film, that was the arrangement with Dire Straits, was like, if you let me play guitar, then you can do the song. So yeah, that definitely does come up, from time to time with him.
That's pretty cool. That's, as a musician, that's pretty cool. I think that as Weird Al, it's one thing to want to do a parody, but then I think another one was Ray Manzarek on his on a parody he did for the Doors, like, which is like, holy shit, that's so cool, but that's just fun, I think.
Well, yeah, and that's always like something he, like him and his band is intensely proud of, is that there's like so many like jagoffs that do like morning radio or whatever that do these, that try to do this sort of thing, but like he's like, no, we're an actual band. Like that's like more than anything, that's what he always brings up. It's just like, no, I didn't just like sing over this or whatever. Although I should say, one of my favorite things to do if you're stuck at karaoke is to just put on a song like Wild Thing or whatever, and then just sing the Weird Al lyrics, and you will alienate everybody at that bar instantaneously.
That's good, man. Well,
or do what I do and invite the woman that you're hanging out with to the bathroom with you, and she goes. But that's a story for another time.
Andy, what are you talking about? What?
Oh, that was a crazy night. I got a little drunk and had a one night stand in a graveyard. It's a whole thing.
Well, if we're working blue, I did want to bring this up. I won't tell it graphically, but to give you an idea of how incredibly unpopular this film was, a friend of mine who I won't name, like when a man and a woman, they love each other very much. There was some action that took place during UHF because there was no one else in the theater. Which is always the most disturbing image. So I wanted to share that with you guys of this movie, that somehow that somebody, got lucky during this film.
And their child's name is Youth.
Right, exactly. Well, you alluded to the UHF thing. Like, what I remember about UHF was those were the ones where you had to have the rabbit ears, the electronics, and you had to move them, right?
Yeah.
So you were getting at, like, the only thing like that now is like public access, and I think that you're probably right, because public access is one of the few kind of like arts blocks things or whatever that they never really get rid of. It still exists in a lot of major markets, not just like New York. Well, I mean, like the shirt I'm wearing, Mr. Science Theater 3000, that's how they got started, was cable access in Minnesota. Yeah. So there definitely is that. And it is one of the ways to find just like absolutely psychotic programming that it is these wonderful moments that like you'll never get. Like, I never taped it, but I just know these things of like, I distinctly remember some cable access show where there was like clearly someone was on like methamphetamines and he just started like repeating words like in a loop, you know, and so it just became this like hypnotic thing of like, where's he going with this or whatever, and he's just like staring straight into the camera. And so I know that like there is that same experience of like you can just, you know, kind of hit random on YouTube and that sort of thing, but there is something about I don't know about the live aspect of it that is I don't know, is thrilling. And I don't know if there's anything still like that. And good friends of mine do public access in Anchorage and do this amazing series of like animation and different sketches, which, no disrespect, not that many people watch, but they have complete freedom. And that's what I think is awesome about like the concept of UHF or those sort of things of like when there's no one minding the store. It's like college radio, you know.
Do
like,
you remember Channel 69 and when we lived in Georgia?
A little bit, yeah.
Because they had some of the weirdest shows on there, and it was it kind of was like UHF.
Right. No, absolutely. I didn't watch it as much, but yeah, I just simply remember that. Like, Anders, didn't you work for a TV station for a while?
Yeah, I was on RT America before it was shut down because of the war.
Jesus.
So what was that like, if I may ask?
It was just like the movie, right?
Not quite. Yeah, it was an interesting time. Yeah, I was on the comedy show there, and I never worked in a TV station before, but it's hustling and bustling, and most of it was COVID though, so I didn't get too much of a sense of what that stuff is like all the time. But it was cool to have, you know, people coming in and out, from guests from different walks of life, you know, coming on to talk about different things, and hosts, all kinds of different hosts. You know, Jesse Ventura would come in sometimes, Chris Hedges, like, yeah. It was and I mean this in the best way possible. It was like a clown car.
Mm-hmm.
That was just the station I worked at, though. So I think other places are different. But
that must have been so much fun. Jesse Ventura coming up to you. Listen, Anders, 9/11 was an inside job, and they're out of croissants in the green room there.
Yeah.
It
was not like that. He can talk. That guy can talk.
Yeah, still Minnesota's biggest embarrassment to date. Yeah,
he has a cable. He has a cable access vibe too. Like he probably.
Oh, show absolutely was when I was on True TV. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Very much. A lot of stock footage behind him. Yeah, for sure. I remember. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, the interesting thing about public access is that, like, the reason why it exists, why there even is these spaces for like this UHF feeling, you know, for that is because a lot of the times, in order for a cable company to get a monopoly in your town, like when they would do that, part of the stipulation was we have to have a free public channel. Like it, you know, it really much. I don't know what kind of politics you'd say it is, but you know, it's like part of agreements that cities make, and then it's like subsidized by the cable companies. So, and you're right.
It kind of goes back to the public good, like why they have to have news on public broadcasting. Yep. Not public broadcasting, but like the network TV shows have to have the news because of doing public good, because they are our airwaves. And it's a way to kind of make it our cable as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you every couple of years you'll see like sort of that stuff like get slowly chipped away, you know. But like it's still there, and every time that it is there, it's I don't know, like it's something to be celebrated because it's so rare. I mean, like with public access, like it's a thing of like what my friends struggle with is like no one watches TV anymore, right? Like just like it would be like the equivalent of like back in the day, I kind of sort of did some stuff with like pirate radio a little bit. And like pirate radio is the same thing of like, okay, cool. You took over the station. I don't listen to radio. I haven't listened to radio in years, you know, cool. You know, so there's like that aspect of it, you know, where it's like, yes, you can do anything, but also like, is anybody watching, you know, that's, and you know, and so that's, I mean, that's like a larger dilemma in general, but like the only thing I could equate UHF is like, do you guys remember ZTV?
This is ringing a bell, but I'm not.
There's a really great documentary about it. It's got a bunch of talking heads like Quentin Tarantino, but ZTV was kind of the equivalent, I guess you could say, of like a UHF, where it was run by complete film nerds, and they would just, oh, you've got like the extended cut of Miller's Crossing or whatever, they would just play it, and it was truly like there was no commercials, and it was one of those things of like, it was at the time of cable, where when cable first started, it was an absolute like just Wild West, and so a lot of times the cable guy, like, you slip him an extra $25-$35 or whatever, and then he would just like put it in, right? So not many people were even like paying for it or whatever, but for like this period of time, they had this just absolutely incredible, like, you want to talk about like nerdy video store, like, imagine like if somebody just like organized a day by auteurs, like today is going to be just Kurosawa, as you're referencing, or whatever like that. They would just do programming decisions like that. Again, you can kind of do that now. It's just a matter of like how much you want to do versus like what people are going to actually watch, but ZTV, the documentary about it is fascinating. I only saw it very briefly at a friend's house once or something, but it was sort of a cult thing in the same way that people, like are in UHF.
Although I don't imagine Weird Al, on UHF playing Kurosawa.
No. I mean, it would be great if you did, though.
We got two comedians on the show, so I gotta ask, like, what do you guys think about, like, what I love about this movie is they commit to the bits, man. There are so many damn bits in this movie, and I feel like they deliver every single one, like, completely wholeheartedly. Like, are there any that stand out to you guys, or any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, again, when I was watching it last night, or when we were just watching the trailer or whatever, I was just like mouthing along. I probably could just do like a one-man show of me just reciting the script to UHF. But like there's been so many times I have like unintentionally ripped off lines from this. I remember there was like a movie review I had done of somebody of this film World Traveler that was absolutely terrible. And I said at one point that I used the phrase "festering bowl of dog snot," which is a line from this thing, and had completely forgotten. There was like a moment where Stanley Spadowski is just like spraying people with whipped cream. I did that in school once, like as a like, weird performance thing, So I would say there's many amazing things, but the one I always go back to is the Wheel of Fish. Specifically because I know that they just bought a bunch of fish in a market and didn't refrigerate it. So it was just sat there all day. So they had these just horrible, just gross
unair conditioned.
Yeah, unair conditioned hot room.
Mall in Tulsa.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And again, like kind of going back to what I said before, it also just like this spirit of like enthusiasm. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of those people like that show up at the end with their like Jeeps with like the 24 lights on them so they can go mudding later. Those are real people in Tulsa that you will meet. Absolutely. And so it has like that, just like, I don't know, borderline white trash, sensibility to it that I don't know, I love. But yeah, the red snapper line probably is my favorite.
What about you, Anders?
You're so stupid.
For some reason, the mashed potato thing towards the beginning always sticks out to me. I don't know why I always remember that.
Close Encounters parody.
Yeah. It seems in a way kind of like a proto Family Guy because there's so many like throwaway bits.
There you go. Yes,
not a bad way, but
I mean,
it's happening at the same time as The Simpsons. You just have like deviations all over the place, which was kind of. Well, I guess you had stuff like Airplane before that, but still it was kind of an innovative way to make a movie.
I love Leslie Nielsen movies so much. But the other thing I like about this movie is I do feel like it's very influential. Like Nathan, really quick, you mentioned doing things that you saw in the movie when you were a kid. Mm-hmm. I had a friend who, like, this movie I think informed a big part of his this was a big part of his childhood. And I remember in one of the movies that he made in like the first year of our filmmaking classes at high school. He did this scene where his character runs, and as his character's running all exaggerated, he's like throwing his head back and forward as he's running. And I just thought that's really funny, whatever that is. And I didn't realize until recently it's from this film. But so that's fun. But as far as the bits go, like I think this film could be like almost like it could serve as a bit of like a primer or a class on comedic filmmaking, or even a lot of different film technique. But like, for instance, when they introduced the Kevin McCarthy character, who I still just absolutely love, right? When they introduce him, he's like screaming at his son, right? That guy's like, "Dad!" Right? And then they immediately do the reveal where they zoom out and it's a whole meeting. And now back to the meeting, right? He's like screaming at his son in this meeting. But another one of my favorite
Don Jr.,
bits,
right?
Yeah, the Don Jr. character. But one of my favorite bits is surrounds this reoccurring character who's just geniusly played by this guy Vance Colvig Jr. And he's like,
mister.
Yeah, mister, can I get some change? Right?
85, 95 a dollar.
Yeah. And he wants change for $1. Like that's just simple, funny shit. You know what I mean? But then I don't know.
Like, that gag is brilliant. Yeah, like I absolutely love that bit. Yeah, for sure.
Come on,
and Phillips cutting off his finger too. It's like, oh my, call me Mr. Butterfingers. Is my face red?
Well, yeah, that's Emo Phillips, who I will argue is one of the best one-liner comics that's ever been.
Wow.
I believe from Minnesota, and just some of my favorites. I could talk about Emo all day, but one of the things I love about him is there's this set where like he did like 30 minutes, and then after he told like each joke, he had this like clarinet, and he was just like slowly putting it together. So you think like, well, at some point he's going to use his clarinet, and then like about halfway through the act, he starts disassembling the clarinet, and then just leaves. He just like those sort of bizarre other, like just like you're talking about, like the silliness of that. I love like that absurdism that like I don't know that you would find. I don't know if it's cool to reference anymore, but Monty Python, that same sort of thing of just like the love of just surrealistic gags that aren't necessarily mean. They're not necessarily making a political point or whatever, but they're just so random or whatever. I
ever
absolutely
see the interview with him where they're in his house and he pulls out this framed check and he goes, that weird voice of his. He's like,
"Yep,
this is a check of 17 cents I got from UHF, and I framed it.
I earned every cent." Or whatever. Yeah.
This scene hits a little too close for me. I'm a piano tuner and fixer-upper guy by day. And one time I was headed to my mentor's house for a lesson, and he calls me, and almost like this guy, almost like this character, like he sounded totally calm, and he was in the emergency room, and he goes, "I don't want you to panic, but I've had a bit of an accident." The dude table sawed his thumb off exactly like this.
Did he? And he talked like that?
He was this guy. He's a real stoic. It's funny. The sun has gone down. I'm all dark. But he literally called me, and he's like, "I don't want you to panic. I'm at the emergency hospital, and I tell you, you'll never believe what happened." He's just that kind of guy. But then I already like put two and two together. I watch a lot of medical shows too, so I was like, "Larry, you left your thumb at your." He had bitten down on a severed thumb, drove himself to the hospital instead of getting an ambulance. Great healthcare system we have in the United States. And then he realized when he's there, he left the tip of his thumb at his house. So yeah, so I went there.
So is he calling you to get the thumb? Is that what's going on?
He didn't even have to say it. He's like, "I need some help." I was like, "Is your thumb there?" He's like, "Yes, it is." He told me where the spare key was. And dude, this guy, I swear to God, this guy was making jokes. He was making jokes. The ER doctor was scared of him. The ER doctor was like, what? He's like, it was crazy. He was like, "I guess you really have to hand it to me, don't you, doc?" It was just It was crazy. This guy, I love that guy with all my heart. But
I probably would
yeah,
be
that
doing
story.
that too. At after
That's a great story that you got the call to go pick up a thumb. That's up there with like the cop that had to pick up John Wayne Bobbitt's member. You know, was
Not that
like
bad.
trying
Let me
to
say.
find. Yeah,
Let me say.
but that's still pretty good.
That was the thing, though. I turned the light on my phone when I got to his garage. I didn't want to like step on it or anything. But yeah, so when I saw this scene of this guy like being all calm and collected about having his thumb sawed off, I was like, "Shit, that's actually like quite true to life for my experiences." Oh my god, yeah, that was rough. It was a rough day for my buddy.
That was a great story. No, I was just gonna for people. Because, like, I think someone in the comments said just like he has this resurgence every 5 to 7 years, and that's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
For people that aren't just completely obsessed with like myself, he does show up in other stuff that you wouldn't think. Like he's on Adventure Time.
Weird Al.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's on Adventure Time. I didn't know that.
Did you know he directed Hanson's music videos?
I did.
Yeah, I think he did Mbop, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, which I don't know. That one looked like it was shot at Six Flags or whatever. But yes, yeah, like he did do that one. He has a random cameo in the Rob Zombie Halloween. So like and then most recently, I saw him. He has like a very brief cameo in the Bill and Ted Face the Music, like the third Bill and Ted movie. And he's still consistently funny. You know, I have no idea how old he is. I'm sure it's quite a bit at this point, but he's still relevant, I guess my point.
Yeah, I want to say the interesting thing too. The guy who played Conan the librarian, he worked as a stuntman in a couple of Arnold Schwarzenegger films.
So that he really did like have that look to the point that he was okay. That's cool.
Yeah, which is funny because I didn't quite realize this, but he's been in like 4 Schwarzenegger films, Stuntman in 2. He was in Stuntman in Commando and Total Recall. Couldn't find out if he was a Schwarzenegger stunt double or not. But he was also a bodybuilder in the 70s. He was also what were the other 2 movies? I think he was in Raw Deal and I'm blanking on the 4th film that he was in with Schwarzenegger. But you know. Yeah, he's a real life bodybuilder and small actor that's been in tons of movies. Before we came on, I was obsessed looking at photos from his 1977 film Sixtet, I think it's called, with Timothy Dalton and screen legend. What's her name? A silent movie star, Mae West.
Nice. She would have been pretty old at that point,
She
right?
was like 80 something, and she was going to be marrying Timothy Dalton in the movie.
Okay.
Like a very young Timothy Dalton, because this is 77. This is
before
Flash Gordon, but
yeah, Mae West would have been 80. Mae West an excellent.
She was like she was born in 1893. I was like looking this up, and she had like so many facelifts. So it was her face looked really weird.
And even at the end, Mae West like was still just doing like totally filthy, like she was so good at like double entendres or whatever. And yeah, like Mae West, a legendary comedic actress in her own.
But yeah, Sixtet also has Ringo Starr in it, and
I have to watch this now.
Keith
What?
Moon and Dom DeLuise.
What
movie?
Is this movie called?
Sixtet.
Sixtet. Okay, putting that on my watch list.
Mae West is marrying her 6th husband and has to stop the wedding to go solve an international crisis.
Okay.
And it
Not
has
bad.
a bunch of bodybuilders in it. It's an insane. Like I said, I got obsessed looking at photos and just like Keith Moon's like a gay dressmaker.
What?
Okay. I'm intrigued. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know
no.
that
The
happens,
reviews
cool.
are terrible on this movie, but I gotta say, like I am fascinated by the whole concept of it.
Stevie mentioned in the comments, I was going to say like something I had totally forgotten about and need to rewatch. He had his own Saturday morning cartoon show. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Was it good?
It was fine.
Okay.
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, the thing is, though, like it would have been really good if they got something like Savage Steve Holland to make the show. Who did Better Off Dead and One Crazy Summer. He went on to doing Saturday morning cartoons, and I think he directed the live action Fairly Odd Parents movies.
Oh, okay.
So like in the 90s, like right around the time that the Weird Al show was on, he was kind of working in children's media, children's television. So it wouldn't have been like a far stretch, but like that would have been a really good pairing. It was just some generic studio, and it lacked that thing that you know what I mean, that just would just take it over to the next level.
Right.
But like
they didn't.
If you go back and watch Eek the Cat, like watch Eek the Cat.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They didn't have Stanley Spadowski, is what it was.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's few things to have Stanley. Unfortunately, just this movie. Well, it's and then speaking of like subversive, like kind of like kid shows or whatever, he's also part of the Aquabats had a show. The Aquabats was this hilarious, in my opinion, they were just like a funny ska band, like
funny ska band, yeah.
And I just loved their whole gimmick or whatever. And then they just randomly got like 2 seasons on like I think IFC. He's a part of it.
That's because they were on Yo Gabba Gabba.
Like
which is an amazing show because they had like Biz Markie and Mark Mothersbaum in it as regulars.
Wow.
Yeah, I would watch it and just be like, this show is kind of awesome.
Okay, and that makes sense. Mothersbaugh is all about that. Like, I think now he's got like a band that's just his kids, but they're doing Devo songs or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
It was a D 2.0.
Yeah, right.
If you guys had to choose between Mothersbaugh, Elfman, who would you go with?
In terms of composers,
like now, or just like overall.
I don't know, man.
I would have to go with Danny Elfman. I don't know. You're talking about Danny Elfman, right?
Elfman all the way, yeah, dude. Yeah.
That's hard because like I love Devo, and Devo means so much to me. And I did get to interview Jerry Casale earlier this year.
That's right, you did.
Yeah, and but him
coming back on is preventing you from saying anything else.
But the thing is, there was like Danny Elfman's scores like mean a lot to me as well because like for a while that was like my go-to music for making art.
Oh, way cool.
Yeah. And I remember one time I was at a pirate radio station and we were doing an interview with Sarah Celine. And she mentioned that Danny Elfman's one of her big influences. And she requested because when she said that, I had a bunch of my CDs with me, and I just pulled out my Danny Elfman album because I had like this 3-volume best of Danny Elfman, and I pulled that out, and she's like, "Oh my God, what you got?" I'm like, "I got it all."
Yeah, I talk about Danny Elfman the way Kanye talks about himself. I love that guy. Yeah, he's a genius, musical genius.
Yeah, like I think I'm probably the same thing as Andy, where like I again, religious household. I wasn't allowed to buy a lot of quote unquote secular music, but I could buy music soundtracks. So I listened to Batman Returns, etc. like a million times, like while I was writing or making collages or zines or whatever I was doing at the moment. But then also there's been some really great Wes Anderson films that Mothersbaugh did the soundtrack for that are amazing. And like, you might disagree with me, Joe, but like Elfman, I haven't heard like a really good one from him in a while. Whereas like I heard semi recently a good one from Mothersbaugh. But I think, that would be probably a close tie.
Yeah, I think Elfman has got a bit in his film scores. He's got a bit like Randy Newman style in the scoring, where it's like you know it's them as soon as you hear them. They're not telling you anything real new. You know what I mean? It's like Newman loves the horns, Elfman loves the clarinets. It's and
the children's choir.
Yes, a really cool thing was on the original Xbox, I played the game Fable, like the original Fable game. Part of what made that game so much fun is like the music slaps, and then you beat the game and it's like, Danny Elfman. It's like, holy shit.
Oh, he did that? That's cool.
Yeah, Danny Elfman.
I know Stuart Copeland from The Police did Spyro the Dragon's score.
Oh, that is so
which
cool.
explains why it's so weird, because Stewart has like the
good,
absolute
too.
strangest time signatures ever. Yeah, like his work as a drummer is amazing, but it's also just like so hard to follow.
Really quick,
But
sorry, go ahead, Andy. You first.
no. Yeah, go ahead. I completely forgot what I
Well,
was saying when you said real
something
quick.
about UHF that I find interesting is like the Weird Al thing is, I mean, really, other than the Dire Straits, which it is pretty genius. It's not like he came up with his own whole parody of Dire Straits' "Money for Nothing." He inserted, the theme from Beverly Hillbillies into
Which
that
is
song.
not even the first time he did that either, because go back to in 3D, he has the safety dance on there where he sings, it's a story of a lovely lady with very lovely girls, and all of them had hair curls, like their mother, the youngest one in curls. It's a
Yes,
story of
okay,
a
so
man named Brady.
it's a
Sorry.
mashup. Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
good. So, but like that scene where he has the whole, fantasy sequence of that, that's the only like truly like Weird Al moment of the film, I feel like, where it's like exactly what you expect of Weird Al, a song parody. But the rest of
Right.
it's all very like, there are a few points where they're like little songs are used as transitions if you're really paying attention. Like there's like a funny blues song in the background at once where he's like, "I want to be your hog, baby." He's talking about being like her
your hog.
And so part of the minutia of that exactly is like the Money for Nothing is maybe the laziest part of it, because it's just like Better Off Dead, where it's like, I don't know, I just want to have a music video in here for a minute or whatever, But like the reason why he does some of those stings is because Orion went bankrupt at the time that this movie was basically finished, so they didn't have the money for rights. So originally they were going to have like George Thorogood or whatever, and then they couldn't afford those rights anymore. So then he just like came up with like, "Let me be your hog," like just as like a fill-in for that. If you watch UHF with the commentary on it, he does this funny thing of like when it has the Orion logo at the beginning, he's like, "Orion doesn't exist anymore." Like he has this like funny song about, because Orion screwed him. Basically, they had zero money for promotions. And part of the reason why the movie died. You could argue it's niche, but like just imagine like how much money goes into marketing and promotion for your average motion picture, and then imagine zero, and then still try to like whatever, get people to go out and see it. So there's a bunch of stuff that was going on at that time. Also, Batman, would be one.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
But like that doesn't help, and some of the times I feel like marketing promotions kind of like waste a bunch of money. If you've ever been a movie critic where they just send you ridiculous stuff, like I don't need Chucky's sperm or something. Is that supposed to get me to review this? You get ridiculous stuff. But like it would have helped for them to have ads or something.
Yeah. We had a question here in the comments. Does Weird Al's humor have an insight into Hollywood? Some of his jokes seems like they are inside jokes or gags on Hollywood. I mean, I think this movie is quite good at. I mean, Weird Al's a parody artist. He's a satire artist. He does that with music, but then he does it with films. And like the whole Rambo sequence was really funny. And the Indiana Jones sequence in the beginning is really funny. But I think what's also fun about them is when you really watch them, they feel like those movies. They shoot them like those movies. They edit them like those movies. You know what I mean? So like you're in this slapstick comedy, and then that's just part of the plot is he's a very imaginative guy. So all of a sudden you're in Rambo, and then you're getting all these like, moving shots and, quick zooms and all the stuff you expect from. So in that way, he's kind of, another thing I liked in the music video, the Money for Nothing, or the Beverly Hillbillies thing, there's a part where all these different camera angles are on Weird Al, and so he's looking at the camera each time, and then he's just like looking everywhere and looking around his shoulder, like he's goofing on what they do. So I think that's just part of who Weird Al is. He's always goofing on whatever the milieu is.
I think that he like there's a lot of jokes that are just like, I guess you would call like kind of Naked Gun kind of absurdist jokes.
Yeah.
But he definitely does, like, in addition to just like making fun of what that thing actually was, like the thing that you're showing right now is like that definitely did happen to Geraldo, where someone did throw a chair at him. And so, like, what's even funnier is like hitting him with the chair again or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But there is like moments where it does sort of get into of just like the ridiculousness, like the excesses of some of those things that they're parodying, like in that Rambo sketch. Like you have like your Naked Gun joke of like where for some reason you can give somebody $20 for helicopter rides, you know, so you have that joke. But then you also have like what I feel is a very valid, you know, joke. It's like when he just does the random shot across and then everybody falls over. If you watch Rambo 3, which I believe is the one where he fights for the Taliban, that's a whole other story.
That's correct. Yes.
This is what I mean by
that's gonna be a
IMDb.
future episode.
They do all just fall over like that. Like it just like they're almost like, bleh, you know. So like he does have like a good attention to detail of like some of like the whatever, like the stuff that you just have to sort of like grin and bear it of Hollywood movies. Like he finds the minutia of it, you know.
And I have to give credit to IMDb for having the bits in the photos. Like they have the guys lined up and they have the guys fall down. Another thing they had in here from the beginning, let me see if I can find it really quick, is like the Twinkie hot dog. And then he puts Cheese Whiz on top of it. Yeah. He makes a Twinkie into a hot dog bun and then puts Cheese Whiz on
milk.
Yeah. Oh, then he dips it in milk.
Which Weird Al has said like that they did like something crazy like 20 takes of that, and that is why he became a vegetarian.
That's one way. Jeez. But yeah, I just liked.
Might have been other reasons, but I would imagine that's a good one.
Yeah, I just appreciate committing to the bits, committing to the absurdity, and just like having fun. That's what I guess what I like about this movie is it is unpretentious and it's just having fun. You know what I mean? And like never once does it, you know, I mean the message is quite like apparent and it's kind of subtle and simple. It's not, you know, they're I don't know. But I just like the commitment to that. I think that's part of why Weird Al is so appealing, especially like to kids and stuff. Because I wasn't raised in a crazy Christian household or whatever, like you guys are talking about. But like Weird Al was one of those things when you're a kid. It was like, oh, it's okay to like this because it's just funny and it's goofy and it doesn't have to be anything else, you know.
And he's very much like a Brian Regan, a comic that I very much respect, where he basically works clean, but he still gets everybody to like him, and he still works. Because like he's right on the edge where like there's like a couple things that are kind of like, I don't know, maybe like the blood that's shooting out of Emo Phillips's, you know, hand or something. But for the most part, you probably could cut like maybe 2 or 3 things, and it would be PG.
Yeah.
And so he's that rare person that doesn't compromise what he's trying to do, but at the same time, he knows that like a certain amount of his audience, whether they should or shouldn't, is just turned off by, you know, gratuitous whatever. And he just doesn't do it, but it still works. And that's like a rare thing. Like it's totally fine when that stuff shows up in like your Judd Apatow's or whatever. Like if you want to reference like more recent, very successful comedy writers. But like he occupies that space where he can be loved by Comedy Bang Bang fans and also by the people that know him from Captain Underpants. You know.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point. Yeah. Go ahead.
Is anybody else getting that sound? That
yeah.
Okay, well, hopefully it goes away. I don't know where it's coming from. But y'all in the audience, if you can hear it, let us know. Were you gonna say something, Anders?
I was just gonna. How long are we gonna go for? I might have to. Sorry, I have to get my girlfriend needs her room here in a minute.
You're saying you
don't
want this to be the Shaka Zulu episode of Bad Saves and just like get into every part of this? I have so much more trivia to repeat to you.
Yeah, you can take off whenever you want. It's all good. We're we probably won't be going too much longer. We've been going almost an hour. And a half,
sorry, she
more than that.
Needs to use her office space. So
no worries, bro. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for coming back.
Absolutely.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. Have a good one. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Take it easy. Have a good night. So
Now we can talk about Anders. No,
yeah.
You know,
Can't believe he'd bail like that, man. Jeez.
I read his essay about autism and was really fascinating. I really learned a lot, and this is no diss on him, but like
he has a one-man show too about this, by the way.
yeah, I heard about it. I just read the essay, but like it's not often that I say like I read this comedian's essay and I learned a lot, but I really did. Like he's incredibly intelligent. He won't hear this, but whatever. But I dig him now. So
No, he was on Redacted Tonight. His bits were always like the best parts because he really did put in the research and just fantastic stuff. So glad that he's in my circle.
Yeah, cool guy. What? Where's that essay you're talking about, Nathan?
I think I just I literally just Googled. I think it's something like "Why I Don't Believe in Autism," which is like a very provocative title. But he goes into the whole history of Asperger's, and I'm not going to do it justice because it's a long essay. But what I learned was that Asperger's was named for this guy who some people view as a Nazi collaborator, and then other people view as kind of like an Oscar Schindler, who tried to save a bunch of people that were kids within orphanages and insane asylums, and whatever we were calling them at the time. Because one of the first groups that Hitler went after was the mentally ill. That he gassed them in these mobile vans, and so again, he goes into the whole argument back and forth. You can kind of decide for yourself about that, but I didn't know any of this, and that's one of the reasons why it's not called Asperger's. They say spectrum or autism now or something, because he's got kind of like a real
controversy around
history there, in the same way that Oscar Schindler does. But yeah, I think I'll send you a link or something.
Okay. Yeah, I gotta check that out. Thanks again to Mr. Leaf for showing up, and Frodo Patronus baby says good night to Anders. So thanks again. But I'll check that piece out. But all right, I got these two diehard super Weird Al fans here. Like, what else you guys got for me? Andy, I just got to say, I love the artwork that you did for this one. People can see it in the back a little bit. When I flash to share the screen, it'll show up really quick. You see the artwork that Andy did. To me, this is quintessential Weird Al. Like when I think of Weird Al, it was weird to me when he shaved and got laser surgery or whatever.
Yes, that it's everybody. It was because he had one of the most carefully constructed of a comedian persona. With his hair,
it's a
and
look.
His glasses. It was a very distinct look, and it was the opposite of cool. But it completely worked for him.
I mean, it was cool in 1978, but
I guess maybe.
Well, but isn't that part? I mean, because I knew a lot of I'm a '90s kid, and so all the older kids around me at the time, like my sister's friends, were more planted in the '80s, and there was just also that was a type of guy you could be, irreverent, ironic guy who's wearing the the Hawaiian shirt ironically. That was
well, because right, and that was so much of comedy for a time period. That's totally random. Was I remember saying that, and that was super funny. And it wasn't just us kids in youth group. All the kids said that. And so to a certain extent, we've evolved past that. But yeah, absolutely, that was very much I don't know, I guess we're kind of like an archetype or something.
Yeah.
Just in the same way that, you were saying, I think it's fascinating that someone that went to film school was heavily influenced like this. But everything comes from something else. Bob Odenkirk, who's a comedy writer that I very much respect. He talks about not just on Mr. Show, but other places where they just studied the transitions in Monty Python's Flying Circus. And they're we totally ripped those off or something. So everything builds from other things. And
I've noticed that. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Show was good at that.
Yeah, and it very much totally takes some of the same like ideas, whatever, like of how you move between the sketches and that sort of
Having
thing.
one sketch end into the other one. Yeah.
Which is like a key thing or whatever. Like again, if you get to like the nitty gritty of that, and I definitely briefly talked to people who work for Upright Citizens Brigade. If you remember when that was on the air. Another incredibly kind of obscure, irreverent, but in my mind, amazing, like sketch comedy show. And that sort of stuff like still exists today. And I'm really curious if there was a group of people, not just me, who like wanted to start like doing comedy in various capacities because of this or UHF or other things like that,
I know one of my favorite comedy groups was a cappella band called Da Vinci's Notebook. I actually did merch for them.
That's awesome. Oh, that's right. Totally. Yeah.
Wow.
And they actually had one of their songs played on what's his name? The host, he's now hosting Wheel of Fortune, not Wheel of Fortune. Price is Right. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Talking about Drew Carey.
Drew Carey, yes.
Yeah.
The Drew Carey show took one of their songs and actually like acted it out on one of his cold opens.
Yep. I can totally see that. Drew Carey, by the way, incredibly cool guy. He consistently, whenever he goes out, tips $100, just like all the time. Like doesn't matter like what's going on. And I remember that I wasn't there. I had friends that work with him. But if you're ever in the position where you can do that. Like that's the coolest thing in the world to be like. If you like anytime you do comedy, you do a bunch of crappy jobs on the side because comedy doesn't pay very well at all. And if you can never be on the other side and you can tip well, that's like one of the best feelings like there is, and I love that about Drew Carey.
Yeah, no, he's always seems like a good guy. Hosting Whose Line Is It Anyways? Which fun show.
I was watching Whose Line when it was only a British show back in the Dizzy, if y'all remember.
Yeah,
that.
you get the hipster beard.
I know the British version. Right?
Well, no, I remember when it was only the British version, and when like Ryan Stiles and Colin Mockery and Greg Proops and them were, and it was like the British host, and then they brought it across the pond, as it were. But it's so I wonder how much, if there was much improv in this movie. Maybe Nathan, you know more about that, because it definitely seems like they know the bits, that they know all the jokes that they have lined up. But I know that Michael Richards was known for improving sometimes, but not a lot. So
yeah, Jay Levy like is the usual writer for Weird Al for a lot of stuff, and so there definitely is like a certain amount of improv, but for the most part, like what's in the script is on there. And what's great is, and something I totally love is like whenever you can see someone almost break, like you're talking about, like, committing to bits. And so there's definitely moments like the What's Your Name Kid Billy. There's another one.
When the kid spits in his face, he like smiles and like covers his face because it's just too funny.
So whenever someone loses it, then I get annoyed, like the Jimmy Fallon, thing. But like when you see someone almost crack up is one of my favorite things that makes me so happy in the whole world. And there's like parts where like he was like red ram, and you can tell they had to cut because he had just came up with that, and everybody just started laughing, and they had to get like that. So there's a fair amount of that in there, but for the most part it was on the page.
But my personal favorite improv on Saturday Night Live was when Chris Farley was doing the Gap Girls with Adam Sandler and David Spade, and he just, in the middle of the bit, he just turns to them and goes, the Menendez brothers, which one got his thingy cut off? And like Adam Sandler just walks off stage, or maybe it was David Spade. One of them just like walks off stage. He just disappears.
Yeah, I remember that.
Chris Farley
just left. Yes.
Chris Farley
was just great because he just but
I also really just like the they just went for it. Like this scene with this kid and the Conan the Librarian. Remember where,
Find a
like,
book on astrology.
look, they have the frame right before they slice him in half. You see the weird, like weird mannequin they got.
Decimal system. Yeah, right, right.
Guys, if you don't know, the next frame is like that mannequin thing gets split in half, and they do such a quick cut that it looks like he splits the kid in half. It's just like, it's so dumb. Like, I like dumb shit sometimes. That's just like the dumb joke. That's the other thing about like I'm a sucker for a reveal. You know what I mean? Like when they introduce, Kevin McCarthy's character, he's yelling at his son, and then they zoom out, and he's doing this amid a whole meeting. Like, I'm just a sucker for that shit. Yeah, but dad. No, back to the meeting, and there's like a whole room full of people. I just love shit like that, and it reminds me. What I like about it is it's shit you can do. You don't need a ton of stuff. You just need a camera that can zoom. You know what I mean? And let's zoom out, and it relies on such like filmmaking technique, and that's what I mean when I say like I watch this movie, and there's like you could, just learn a bunch from it. Now, I do feel there's some stuff in it that I think is just like old hat now, but like having like Michael Richards' character, having the goofy dumb guy, for whatever reason, everything turns to gold. You know what I mean? Like his show is just so popular. It's like Forrest Gump vibes a little bit. You know what I mean? Like that's like a and a lot of my.
That's a good point. I never thought of that. That yeah, like he doesn't go full, art, but that's a good point. I never thought of it. Like I just thought that he was sort of like this really. Like, to me, the only thing that's sad about the movie is when Kevin McCarthy just arbitrarily fires him and thinks it's really funny that he didn't even need to fire him, that he'd been sitting on it. Because, like, there's scenes like that in other movies. And if you've ever been fired arbitrarily, it's one of the most horrible feelings you can ever go through. Especially if you're male, where a lot of us are trained, like, you're a provider, this is what you're supposed to do. And, if you don't have
identify with your work,
your job is your identity, it's your id. Yeah. And so, yeah, I just that he's just sort of like, but you're right, he is sort of right on the edge of like short bus with some of his like mannerisms, and like I guess he just really loves being a janitor. Is there more to that or whatever? I never thought of that before. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's the other, and I think it's also because I recognized it in a lot of friends. When you're making some films, like that's an easy character to come up with and play. You know what I mean? So you have like the dumb character. I talk like this. You come up with a character, and then for whatever reason, everyone seems to love what they do. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, that's a common writing thing. Like if you Tina Fey and people will talk about like so much of like sketch, especially live sketch, is just like there's one weird person, and then everybody else is reacting to that weird person. And inexplicably, for some reason, that weird person that's doing every antisocial behavior possible still succeeds.
Yeah.
So I was curious, like, for you guys, like, what is comedies now that make you feel like this, or whatever, have joy or whatever to it,
It took me a while to find this one, but Barb and Star Goes to Vista Del Mar is one of the best comedies that has come out in recent years. It is wildly funny. It's there's nothing. You can compare it to Naked Gun, but it's not like Naked Gun at all. It makes you feel like Naked Gun makes you feel, if that even makes sense. Because it's such a strange movie. It's like a spy thriller about middle-aged women who go on vacation to find their groove, and it is there's a musical number. It's
wow.
It's like really just watch the movie. Seriously, it's on Hulu if you subscribe to that.
Remind me,
it's not what you'd expect.
Who stars in that? Remind me. I know I watched it.
Wait, one of the
Kristen Wiig and Annie Mumolo.
That makes sense, because Kristen Wiig is like a national treasure. So yeah, like I couldn't remember because I saw that one a while ago. No, I think that one is great. What about for you, Joe?
What are you asking? Like absurdist comedy?
Just like a
Like
recent
this?
comedy, yeah, it's like that just sort of like makes you feel like the way that like I was describing, like just sort of like the energy, like the joy. It's not mean or dark or whatever with it. It could be absurdist.
I have no fucking clue. Like I have to just like only because of what I've seen recently. Like maybe Taika Waititi a little bit. Like Ragnarok. But I think honestly, this is stupid because I'm just mentioning Marvel movies. But like I thought that I was really surprised by Multiverse of Madness, right? By Doctor Strange too, and
Sam Raimi,
Raimi,
so like,
and like and like his humor in that. I mean, there was dark humor in it too. It wasn't, you know what I mean? So I don't know if like joyful is the right word, but like I honestly can't think. Like I feel like this is a bit of a dead style, like this totally over the top absurdism. Like like I mean it reeks of the time, like it's not just the neon colors and all that stuff, but there's just like something that I found kind of funny throughout the plot was like they have no money until Stanley Spadowski's Playhouse hits, and then they just have all this money, and like there's just tons of money, like the Latino guy with the animal show, he's like ordering whole like a flatbed of animals, and they have new sets for Stanley Podolsky's Playhouse. They're blowing up like expensive model train set, like you know what I mean. There's just like that kind of absurdism where there's no way, you know what I mean. And today, like having to raise $75,000 doesn't seem like insignificant, but you know what I mean, like.
In this economy, exactly. Just inflation, exactly. 75,000.
Yeah. But I can't think of a comedy today. I mean, maybe I'm just blanking on recent comedies, but like
most of them haven't been good. I mean, we're kind of at a dry spell, to be honest with you, because remember the Judd Apatow thing's kind of been done.
And he keeps doing it again, and it's good. We like it, but.
He's
Judd I'm not saying that they're bad. It's just like we haven't moved past it, is what I'm saying.
Yes. Apatow's work with Pete Davidson is like it's totally like different or whatever, and a lot of it is more dramedy. Is more like his thing. I was just gonna say, like, there's films that made me laugh recently. Are like more what I call like kind of high concept, and they're maybe not just comedies, like Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I gotta see that still, man.
There's the
so good.
I'm trying to think of the unbeatable or unbearable weight of massive talent, the Nicolas Cage one.
Also fantastic.
Yeah, and so those are both like concept comedies. And somebody referenced in the chat, and so I would agree with this. It was from a while ago, but it does make me feel the same way as any of Tim and Eric, awesome show, great job. It's still was right perfectly at the moment, like early or mid internet, depending on how you want to, date it or something like that. But so much of like, I feel like what is internet humor now is very much theirs, of just sort of like purposely bad editing, like the thing at the end where you scream for no reason. So a lot of like, meme culture and TikTok, Vine, et cetera. Like
cringe comedy.
Exactly. Cringe comedy. But like the way that they went about things and how it came out. One thing I love about Tim and Eric is that they purposely just put ads like in Craigslist, and just as much as they possibly could got people who did not look like they would ever be on a TV show ever, and probably weren't. They were probably, this was literally the only time they were ever on like a broadcast, television show. And just their sort of like gleeful, insanity. Like the way that their show got started was they literally just like put a video cassette like on Bob Odenkirk's like front steps, and then had a receipt for what he owed, or what they owed. They were owed for giving him a demo or something. Like they're very cocky about it. And they're one of the few I can think of that these days, like I can still like revisit. That's like semi-recent. Most of it's like you're saying is more higher concept. Thor Ragnarok was funny, blah blah blah.
I would agree. Like if I were to say, Tim and Eric are the absurdists, you know what
Mhm.
I mean, like of today, but it's not quite like they're reveling it, like I said, they're reveling in,
More
I
cringe.
guess, in cringe, but like part of stuff that part of the aspect of comedy I really love is just defying expectations, right?
Mhm,
You know what
mhm.
I mean? And I think that's why, like, I'm a sucker for just like a dumb bit, but it like defied your expectations, and that's the whole bit. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
And that's
mhm,
why
mhm.
I will always come back to this guy because he's just so fucking funny. Like, he's this like raggedy homeless guy. Mister, can I have some change? And he actually wants change for $1. And
And
then
that's
it is
such like a airplane joke. Absolutely. Yeah, like it's
totally,
so
totally,
ridiculous. Right, because
yeah.
it's the because so much of it, like you're saying, like the punchline is tricking somebody. That's like why I've always been obsessed for so many years with Andy Kaufman. That was his whole thing, was just
Oh
sort of like
yeah,
tricking people was what he loved more than anything on earth. He didn't necessarily
yeah.
think if it was funny, just the fact that he tricked you was funny to him or
The
whatever.
original
So
troll, man. Yeah,
absolutely, very much
OG
so. Yeah.
troll. Yeah,
I used to do that with my children. I taught my
oh
oldest
no.
that snakes live on planes, and
Oh my
good
god.
thing we never had to fly anywhere because that would have been a mess. But yeah,
We had a
be like,
family
honey,
friend
where
growing
do
up who
snakes live? On a plane.
On a plane.
we had a family friend growing up that told me and my little brother when we were really young that he ate the Easter bunny. That he killed and ate and it just freaked us the fuck out. Like we just like screamed in horror, but like he just thought it was hilarious, you know what I mean? And in some ways it was. And then I don't know. There's other things about this. Like here, okay, here's an interesting thing. So we talked about some of the problematic depictions in this
Sure,
film,
sure, sure,
right?
sure.
And one thing I find interesting is this character, right? Ludi C. Washington, the actor, and he's the station, really the guy doing all the work
Uh-huh.
in the UHF station,
Mhm.
and he gets not a single line,
He has
right?
no lines. He's very funny in every scene, but exactly, he's
He's
sort of like
hilarious.
his role is to be like the hapless, like, well, I'm the guy that's got to do all like the non-glamorous stuff of like hitting the drum and like running the camera and yeah, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
but
Mhm.
he's not even hapless. Hapless to me implies like clumsiness, right? Or anything like that. And he's not hapless. He's just like absolutely bored.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
The
sorry. I should say just blasé, right? Like, why am I
Yes,
here?
blasé.
This is
Yes,
just
yes, yes,
another
yes.
job for him. Like he's gonna go and like whatever. Like he cleans houses for his other job or whatever. Yeah, like he's totally bored.
Yeah. So I I just said what when I alluded to problematic racial depiction in this movie, but what this reminds me of actually is of a creative choice that was made in of all series, The Hobbit
Mhm.
movies by Peter Jackson.
Mhm.
He's got these 12 dwarf characters, right? Which I could name them all if I needed to, but I'm a huge nerd. But there's one named Bomber, right? There's one
Mhm.
dwarf named Bomber,
Mhm.
and the whole thing, and in the book, and everybody knows the only thing you know about Bomber is Bomber's very fat,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And like that's just the whole thing you know about him in the books. So in the books, some of the dwarves are like just nameless. They're nameless, but they're basically faceless. They get no dialogue, nothing. But in the movies, he each dwarf gets a little bit of character and dialogue, but he purposefully did not give a single line to the fat guy. And so he's continually like a slapstick character,
Mhm.
and just like that's part of the bit is you never hear him say anything because he's the fat guy, you know what I mean? So it's this kind of thing where like I recognize the similarity here, where I get it, like
Mhm.
in some ways this guy is doing a physical comedy where he's just he's eating while he's watching, he doesn't care, like you said, he's blasé. But the other thing is he is kind of a straight man, he's
Yeah.
reacting to the goofiness all around him.
Mhm.
But that's just a trope. Like I've noticed a similarity there.
Yeah.
And as a member of the fat community, I would like to just point out that
Is that what we're supposed to call you now? A fat?
as one of the
Well,
fats.
I mean, as another Joe happened to say, listen, fat.
Listen, fat. Yeah. I can't speak
That
for
was-
all Joes.
Well, like
Hashtag
so
not all Joes.
as I know, jokes. Well, like, so speaking to that within comedy, I know we're like going on 2 hours here, but like the one thing that I'm glad that we have evolved from is that for a long time there was just like that person's fat and that's funny, you know, and like
yeah, falling down. The fat guy fell down. Yeah.
Right. So you have your Chris Farley's, you know, and things of that nature, like who tried to like break out of that. And a good example of like someone I think who has moved past that, but definitely was still doing it up until like semi recently was Rebel Wilson. Like if you look at like the early like Pitch Perfect, every single joke is like, ha ha, someone threw food at the fat girl or whatever.
Yes.
And I was just like, can we like something? I mean, yeah, I get it. She's fat, but there's like a little bit more to it than just eating or something, you know? And so that's something where like, I think we're making some progress. And again, this isn't like even like a political thing of just sort of like, what's funny to me. Like, that's what I'm always obsessed with when I do work with the Anchorage International Film Festival and we get a bunch of shorts. And that's the thing is like, every time it's a comedy, it's like, yeah, you made this point about Black Lives Matter or whatever, but was it funny? You know, like that's what's important.
Yeah.
There's, as a wise person once said, there's 2 forms of film that force you to have a physical reaction: porn and comedy. That's and if they fail at those 2 things, then they have failed miserably, right? Like comedy must resort some type of reaction from you. Otherwise, why are you watching it? Just go watch like a better movie, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And you know, you can always, it's always like the cultural artifact argument. These are products of their time.
Yes.
You know, we found it. This is how it is. You're going to see depictions like this, which, like Andy said, like this actor.
Gende Wanatabe. Did I say
thank you. You did. You know, he is goofing on, you know, what has, you know, been done to, you know, Chinese and Asian actors in cinema, you know, so he's goofing on that at the same time, but you know, then it also is depicting way, you know, they do, you know, it is like one of the only black actors they have in there gets no lines, you know what I mean, and so it's just one of those things where I see it for its time, you know, but I mean, just the last, like the fat people being the punchline just because they're fat. I think another person who's like done a work on like in our favor in that is Jonah Hill, right? Who, like, you know, was in Superbad and was the funny fat guy. Like that if you grew up fat, like that's everybody knows, like who grew up overweight,
dicks.
like that's a defense mechanism, is to be funny, is like that's how that's a way of protecting yourself, you know, because you're abused, you're just abused, right? By other kids, by whatever family, whoever. And he's now had to, like, you know, entertainment journalists who, you know, I try not to disparage journalists, but being one with, I can speak within my community, tend to be pretty scummy. Like it's a very like low level. They're one step above paparazzi, but like, you know, an entertainment journalist just like, so you're not fat anymore. Like, what is that going to do for your roles and that kind of shit? You know what I mean? So, and he gets like aggressive with them, you know, so it's nice to see that. And now, you know, that guy's like, you know, he's in fucking Scorsese movies. He's doing whatever the fuck he wants at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah. He's definitely somebody that has, like, although like his look right now, man, like if you Google like Jonah Hill in any sort of recent movie premiere, I don't even know how to describe it. Like he looks like someone that got kicked out of a UFC match or something. I don't know. Like his outfits are just terrifying. But like, no, he definitely has like evolved, and he would be another good example. I mean, he's also like a capable director. Like mid-90s is a legitimate good movie, even if you weren't a skateboarder.
Oh wow.
Like that's so.
Yeah.
He has that going for him. He did a great portrayal in Funny People of like what it's actually like of writing comedy. There's some really great moments with that. But yeah, exactly. He's like someone who has evolved and moved past it. But there is truly something to that of like, you can trace it back, whether it's psychological or not. Name any sort of like big comedian who was literally big, whether it's a male or a female. When they lost a lot of weight, their career did change in some capacity. There is something to that. There could be like a variety of different things that go into it. Statistically speaking, people that get bariatric surgery, like 50% of them get divorced, like within a year or two. Like, so there's like stuff
Wow.
that changes with people, you know, like when you have a rapid weight loss, there's a variety of factors go into it. So maybe that does something to you psychologically, but yeah, there is something to that. But you're right. Every entertainment journalist, that's probably what the hook has been for, I don't know, like 10, 20 years or something. Whereas like, I want to go like, let's talk about Strange Wilderness. That was so funny. Like this ridiculous Adam Sandler movie he did a long time ago. You know?
Or how funny was he in Don't Look Up, like as the fail son of the president, right? Like here he is. He's funny. He's just funny. Like he's a funny guy. Like you know, you know, I think back on Chris Farley, who was like a hero of mine growing up, and you know, like it was a thing where I think he was struggling with like, is the joke on me? You know what I mean? Am I the joke or am I the funny person? You know what I mean? And so like, I don't know that you know, I mean, that's not even a big part of UHF, but like, it's an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, and he idolized Belushi, and who had the exact same thing. They both died essentially kind of the same in many respects, and yeah, they both were like, "Can I move past this or whatever?"
And the weird thing too, Belushi was in Animal House with Stephen Furst, who also was like the fat funny guy, basically kind of like Jonah Hill of the early '80s.
Yeah, that's a fair comparison.
There you go.
And Stephen Furst, you know, lost a lot of weight in the '90s, but that was because he had was battling cancer.
Wow.
And then passed away a few years ago.
That's right.
Phenomenal actor.
Well,
too.
yeah.
But
it's crazy
also
that
funny because he was also very funny, you know.
Yeah, no, incredibly funny. And then I guess to bring it back, Weird Al is like, I guess we'll see about this biopic or whatever if it's actually real, because I still think it's an elaborate prank. Because that is truly someone who is still essentially doing the same act that they did as their very first album. There, like I said, there's those cameos, those different things. I do the theme song for, you know, Spy Hard or whatever, but basically still doing parody of music videos. You know, he's a product of MTV in the early, you know, part of music television, and now has become like, has his own kind of fixture within YouTube. You know, like pretty much since that became like the default medium for musicians, because at his heart, he always considered himself to be a musician more than anything else, as opposed to like an actor. And he's never gone the route of like a Robin Williams, where he wants to be quote unquote taken seriously. And
sort of kind of though, like as a director, he's done a lot of music videos, like just real music videos, you know. I mean, I'll pull it up, but like,
because like Ben Folds, like the one he did for like Ben Folds, like I feel like the majority of them are still kind of funny though. You know what I'm saying?
Some
like,
are like he does a mix of them though.
Okay,
those are music videos. Those are music videos. Like it's one thing to do that, but it's another thing to go like full Bobcat Goldthwait, where you're Bobcat Goldthwait, and then you're directing films like World's Greatest Dad, or you know what I mean, or like that. That's a whole, or you know, I have to honestly give credit to Seth Rogen too, from just being like the kind of funny chubby guy to just busting his ass in writing and directing and doing all that stuff, you know. So, but guys, it's getting late. What are our last thoughts on what's the bad takes kind of, you know, closer on UHF? I mean, again, people, if you didn't know, you can watch this film right now for free on YouTube with ads, which is kind of nice. But what do you guys? What are your parting thoughts on the 1989 classic?
I guess I've just been like a constant booster for the past 2 hours. It's the legitimate film from like 1989 that still, with the exception of one sketch, still holds up. I was my wife's out of town. I was laughing like a crazy person by myself on my couch last night, and I've seen this movie like 30 times. So I legitimately love it in the same way that I love more modern comedies like 21 Jump Street movie or whatever, a great Jonah Hill joint.
That one was fun. That one was fun.
Yeah, and just highly encourage people. And also, it is the rare film that, unless you have like a super sensitive kid, like pretty much you could show to just about just about anybody. Like maybe you have to like block their eyes for like a couple of the quote unquote like bloody jokes, but for the most part, it's absolutely harmless. And that's not something I think that you can say about a lot of films that are made now, you know? So I love it.
It's one of the few all ages films, which
Which
is
doesn't
not.
suck.
Yeah. Because usually, like when they try to build something as all ages, it really, it's either Pixar, which I'm not really that into Pixar. I appreciate some of the stuff, but it's not my jam.
Yeah, but they do the thing where there's a bunch of jokes the kids like, and then there are those undercurrent jokes that are for the parents. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
This ain't doing that.
And I mean, like the Muppets did that better back in the day.
Yep. There you go.
So it's like why would I watch Pixar when I can watch the Muppets?
Yeah.
But this one really is like truly something, whether you're a preteen or a 45-year-old guy with teenagers as kids,
Yeah.
with a gray beard and basement.
There you go, man. There you go. I'm also going to use it like as a teaching tool with my kids when I have them. You know what I mean? Like, I try to tell. I'm a transfer student in college right now, so I'm surrounded by all these 20, 19-year-olds. And I'm the old millennial yelling at them. And I will like tell them like, if you want to understand what the '90s was like, kids, go watch Seinfeld. You'll understand. We had answering machines. We had to do all these things. And like this one, like a TV channel that you access through rabbit ears. You know what I mean? Like all these, we didn't even mention the goofy engineer character. You know what I mean? And
My son's brother.
Yeah, he had a very weird
Philo.
Science vibe. Like kind of like weird science movies like that. But
and then he returned to his home planet.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I totally forgot.
Named after the inventor of television, Philo Farnsworth. Yep.
Yeah. But I really like, Andy, what you said about this being accessible, and what you said accessible, and what you said, Nathan, about it being good for kids. Because like I remember seeing this as a kid, and just like the bit where the soldier is shooting at Rambo Weird Al, and then Weird Al is approaching him, and then
just right next to him,
and they're right across, like 2 feet across from each other, and just shooting at each other. That's just really funny when you're a kid, because you're aware of war movies, and you're like, absurdity is funny. One time I got to interview Bill Burr. Like, this is one of my biggest things I got to do at the newspaper.
Nice.
When I wrote arts, was interview Bill Burr, and he told me once about seeing a prop comic in the '80s. Who, prop comics usually pull jokes out of a bag, right?
Yeah.
And he reaches into his bag and he quickly pulls out, and it's block letters, and it's just the word "this." And he goes, "Would you look at this?" And that was the whole joke. That was the whole joke. Yeah. And Bill Burr has just talked about, man, that was the dumbest fucking joke, but at that moment it hit me, and it just got me. And like, that's what I love about this movie is you might miss some of them, like you said, like you will miss some of these little bits. There's just so many bits, or just like I mentioned the answering machine earlier, the scene where he's like crying into the answering machine and she's sitting there. You know what I mean? It's just like
it just breaks because he's in the next room. Yeah, like exactly. Yeah, that's a great scene.
Yeah, so it's just fun. I think that's what I like about this movie is it's fun, and like you said, it holds up. I mean, that's a big thing with and that's the thing we discuss here on Bad Takes is do these movies hold up? Like, are they still what they intended them when they came out? Do they still hold up in that way? And this movie's just still funny. So yay.
Exactly.
And I apologize for my weird I wanted to have the artwork, Andy, you set up here on my TV behind me, but I went with the lava lamp instead. I didn't have time, so I apologize for that.
My stupid green screen didn't work. I was going to show you the funeral home for Plots R Us, which was just on the street from where I lived in Tulsa.
Oh my
so
God.
like, I definitely know the area.
That is weird. So yeah, you have like a personal connection to the location of the film too. That's hilarious. Well, guys, there it is. Hold on, let me just share it. Plots R Us. There it is. That's the place, huh?
Yep.
All right.
Over on Harvard.
Well, thank you, everybody. Andy, we're gonna do another one soon, but we'll announce it. Or do we know what we're gonna do?
Yeah. We're gonna do we're gonna be a little more serious with our next comedy movie we're gonna watch. We're gonna watch 19. I have not seen this movie since it was in the theaters. Okay.
What's it called?
But the 1989 film The Dream Team with Michael Keaton. And I'm I have John F. O'Donnell and an old friend of mine, Evans Baker, who is a mental health professional now. Went to art school together.
Cool.
So she's fantastic, and it's I liked the movie at the time. I have not watched it since 1989.
Well, it's got Christopher Lloyd, and I love Christopher Lloyd. So.
And Stephen First. So, there you go. And Peter Boyle.
Oh wait,
cool.
is this at like a insane asylum or like a mental health ward or something?
Yeah. They go on a field trip, and their doctor gets shot, and then
I
the
remember
police are
that.
after them. And,
Yeah.
God, none of that sounds funny, but it was the 80s, so.
Yeah. So basically, we're going to talk about mental health for the most part next time.
There you go.
So be ready for that. It's going to be a much more serious conversation about a comedy.
Yep.
But we will have fun with it because I am irreverent, and I know John can be too. But we'll have our, we're not going to have as much fun like we did this time.
Mm-hmm. That is coming up next time on Bad Takes. Nathan, thank you for coming on, man. It was a lot of fun to meet you and talk about this movie. I can tell you love it.
Pleasure. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, man. It was great.
Very cool. And we'll offer another thanks into cyberspace to Anders Lee. Thank you for being with us, Anders. And Andy, this was a good choice. Thank you, sir. And happy belated birthday. I'm sorry I missed your birthday stream.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. No, you were otherwise occupied. I totally understand that.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. But if that's all we got, have a good night, everybody.
Pleasure.